The girl received a phone call from the yoga room receptionist. Her best friend had just passed away. This was her first time going to such a luxurious yoga place. She opened the closet that her best friend left for her. Inside there was a very large backpack. The girl opened her backpack to take a look. The contents inside made her gasp. The inside was suddenly filled with money. This is all the property that her best friend who committed suicide left her. The total is more than 70 billion. The girl suddenly went from being a poor divorced woman to becoming a rich lady in high society. This is Inju, who is currently living in a rented house with her two younger sisters. The father ran away abroad because of high interest loans. This mother is very bad. Inju always tries to take care of her siblings. Fortunately, even though life is difficult, the three sisters' bond is still extremely strong. Today is Inhai's birthday. Inju and Inkyung have saved up some money to send Inhai abroad to study. Unexpectedly, my mother objected. Inhai understands that it's okay if she doesn't go. Unexpectedly, that night the mother stole money from her daughter and flew abroad to have fun. She thinks that her daughter is still young and still has a chance in the future. This time, I will replace you and go abroad first. Inju was so angry that she couldn't hold back her tears. That was the money her sisters saved. You don't cry because you're sad, you cry because you're angry. But even so, the two of them didn't want their sister to suffer. Therefore, I immediately agreed with her to collect all the expenses by the end of the week. In order to do what she agreed with her sister, Inju went to the company to find her superior, wanting to advance part of this month's salary. The result is ironic. She doesn't understand how hard she works. Why is this happening at the company? At the company, she still has a close friend who is also rejected by everyone like her, named Hwa-young. Inju couldn't understand. Because she doesn't know how to speak, she will be rejected. Why was Hwa-young also rejected by her colleagues? Hwa-young stopped what she was doing. Do you think it's because you don't know how to speak that you're being rejected? After thinking about it, Inju said it must be because I didn't work enthusiastically enough. Suddenly Inju thought of something. It's definitely because all the boys like me. Hwa-young felt very speechless with Inju's answer, said that they were both rejected by their colleagues because they were the only two people with the lowest academic performance in the company. One old woman is single, the other is divorced. Even though her words were harsh, Hwa-young, who had no money, still agreed with Inju to lend her money for the weekend. He also told Inju that she no longer needed to please her superiors. At the same time, In-kyung, who was working at the newspaper, was staring at the loan website. She hesitated whether to borrow money or not. At this time, someone called and asked if they were short of money. The aunt also seemed to have money, but the Inju sisters did not want to accept her help. The next day, Hwa-young calls Inju and tells her to dress modestly. She wants to take Inju to a luxury restaurant to see the city. Therefore, Inju was especially dressed very beautifully. The pink shirt is combined with a pink long skirt. Also added are lotus pink high heels. Right at this moment, Inju's high heels suddenly broke. Hwa-young saw that and immediately gave her the shoes in his bag to borrow. After going to the place where fireworks were seen, Inju excitedly waved her arms and legs. But she looked down at herself dressed like this, and felt a little touched. She was not qualified to blend into this luxurious atmosphere. Unexpectedly, Hwa-young walked directly over, took off her coat and put it on Inju's shoulders. As expected, it must be worn by beautiful women. Then he took the high heels from his feet and gave them to Inju to wear. With just a simple change, Inju's temperament was completely different. Inju is curious that such beautiful clothes will definitely cost a lot, but Hwa-young said the things she bought were all fake. Inju then went inside the hall, attracting the attention of a golden girl. While eating, Inju talked about her dream of buying a big and beautiful house for her sisters to live together. Hwa-young then said that she was recently busy with a project and wanted to collaborate with Inju. So Lean brought out a contract in English and asked Inju to sign it. Inju didn't think too much, so she took the pen and signed. Later, Inju was in the bathroom when the young lady of the tycoon came up and started a conversation. Inju asked if she recognized her, and Miss Tien Kim said that the two of them are wearing the same shoe model. There are only 3 pairs of this shoe model nationwide. The girl came to the house to help her best friend who was abroad feed the fish. Unexpectedly, looking through the glass, I discovered that the wardrobe had a pair of red high heels. The girl mustered up the courage to go closer to the wardrobe. Clothes began to sway. The body hanging inside made her sit down on the ground in fear. Following her gaze downward, she saw the tattoo on her ankle. The girl recognized the body inside the closet. That is Hwa-young. Inju really thought Hwa-young was just going abroad. Who would have thought that? Then at her best friend's funeral, Inju sees colleagues who never talked to her and Hwa-young before. At the company, when they were rejected, they went to the hospital, pretending to be hypocrites and crying. At this moment, she suddenly remembered what Hwa-young had said. Don't let company people attend your funeral. Inju gets drunk and opens a bottle of wine. Then the news of Wai Young's suicide was also broadcast on the TV news. Every day there are a series of different articles. In an interview with a reporter, the hospital doctor said that the day before, she had come in for orthopedic surgery. Colleagues in the company still pretended, saying they didn't expect her to have such serious depression. Even experts who don't understand anything say that Wai Young has serious appearance anxiety, speculating that he was an extremely self-conscious person. Hearing the evil words broadcast on TV about his close friend, Inju was so angry that he couldn't stand it. She cursed them for their uneducated words. Does this beautiful Wai Young also suffer from appearance anxiety? After returning to the company, Inju still heard her colleagues gossiping about what happened to Wai Young. Say she's annoying to death, as scary as a ghost. Inju couldn't hold back any longer and finally exploded, speaking loudly in front of everyone. 4 years ago when she first joined the company, the only person willing to guide her was Wai Young. Inju wanted to invite her to dinner to thank her, but Wai Young said that if she ate with her, she herself would be rejected. She then took out a portion of the data Wai Young had previously given her. Above is a record of all the bad backgrounds of colleagues in the company. She said the evil leaders always talked about Wai Young having an affair with a male colleague in the company, and also detailed how they spent the night at the hotel. One thing after another was said by Inju, and her colleagues were informed directly. The cruel female leader immediately held her tongue and did not dare to explain anything. While the two were arguing fiercely, the company's big leader came in. He called Inju to his office, took out a piece of evidence and showed it to her. He told her close friend, Wai Young, who had been stealing the company's public funds for 15 years, and in recent days had transferred 70 billion won to a foreign company. The company forced her to return the stolen public funds, otherwise they would report her to the police. Who would have thought that now she would commit suicide for 70 billion and her whereabouts are unknown? The leader wants to hear from Inju to see if he can find any clues about that money. Unexpectedly, Inju directly rejected her. Inju not only refused, but also placed her resignation letter on the leader's desk. After speaking, he left. His best friend suddenly committed mysterious suicide, stealing 70 billion in public funds behind his back. This made Inju think for several days until she collapsed. She walked on the bustling streets of the city and suddenly received a call. That place is a high-end yoga room. Says that Wai Young transferred the yoga membership card to Inju's name. Based on the address, Inju went to the yoga room. After completing all the name transfer procedures, she went to the locker. After scanning the card to open the locker, there was an extremely large backpack inside. She opened it to see that inside there were 2 new sets of workout clothes. And then there were only 3 pairs of expensive high heels in the country. Wai Young wrote in a letter to thank Inju for taking care of her during this time. You are so good to me, I hope you and your siblings can move into a beautiful apartment with windows. Then Inju took out the large backpack inside. After opening it, she was completely stunned. The inside was suddenly filled with money. She dare not believe her own eyes. It was all because of her. She couldn't hold on any longer, her head was in pain and she cried. But this 70 billion cannot be exchanged for her best friend. Have you experienced the joy of counting money yet? 1.9 billion 70 million, 1.9 billion 75 million, 1.9 billion 80 million, 1.9 billion 85 million, 1.9 billion 90 million, 1.9 billion 95 million. Do you admire counting 2 billion in a suitcase? It is said that a person can commit suicide in just one night, turning into a rich woman. Looking at the suitcases full of money, Inju didn't know what to do. Faced with sweets that she normally wouldn't dare eat, today she bought them like crazy. She took it until the whole basket was full. But she still said that she was asking to return the change. Inju eats sweets and walks on the street. No matter how you think about it, you can't understand it if you are a millionaire. She will definitely not choose suicide. Could it be that Wai Young did not commit suicide but was assassinated? Thinking of this point, Inju suddenly felt that the ice cream in her hand was no longer delicious. To find out the truth of her close friend's death, the next day Inju went to the company to find the leader, told him she would help the company investigate the missing 70 billion, and at the same time offered to lead the company. The director agreed to her 2 requests. First, she will not return to work at the company, but will go to Orchid Construction's local office. Second, she asked the boss not to call Wai Young a thief, because he had always considered her a thief. Minister of Finance Du Il, who was next to him, couldn't help but laugh. Inju did not believe that Wai Young would do anything to steal public funds, even though that 70 billion was in her house. After that, the minister accompanied Inju again to Wai Young's private house, hoping that with Inju's help, he could find some useful clues. The minister said he asked Wai Young's father to keep all the items in the room intact, and also took all of Wai Young's electronic products for investigation to see if she deleted anything before committing suicide. There were cockroaches. The minister was extremely curious. Although Wai Young's house was full of branded items, there were cockroaches on the floor. This was not quite right. After that, Inju told Du Il to go ahead. She will stay here and wait for him. I'm not afraid at all. After the minister left, Inju remembered what Wai Young once said to her. What are receipts and books to accountants? As a Bible, Young once guided Inju as an accountant to definitely keep all book receipts on hand. So if she feels suspicious, she can easily investigate. Because of this statement, Inju collected all the receipts for branded goods in Young's house. When she saw the price of a bag, she froze for a few seconds. She continued to remember what Young once told her. Don't carry that type of bag to the company, this looks so real. Young told Inju not to carry that bag to the company in the future. Because only poor accountants are not talked about by others. What would happen if you carried a fake bag in your hand? It looks like you don't have money and still want to wear gold. How dare the company put money into the hands of such people? After all, money in the eyes of accountants is just a number. Young then looked like a leader in Inju's eyes. Then Inju based on the photo in Young's phone album to find her social account. The social dynamic inside shocks Inju. At this time, Inju suddenly understood why Young was one type at the company and another type outside. Young on social media is what she really looks like. Right when Inju was about to discover an important clue, the doorbell suddenly interrupted her train of thought. Turns out it was the boss. Inju said the boss could take all the jewelry in the house and exchange it for money, that way he could get a little back. Who would have thought that the boss would say that the items in this room were all trash? In his eyes there was only 70 billion. Inju then shows Young's social accounts to the boss. She tells him that Young had long ago thought of settling in Singapore. After listening, the boss felt that Inju was very strange. Inju, what kind of person are you? I can give you these things. Then he looked down at Inju's legs and said he really liked these legs. Then he slowly walked closer to Inju. I really liked this cheap way of dressing. This girl just chased her boss away and went to a shoe store to buy shoes. There, she met a staff member. The staff recognized those shoes at first glance. There are only 3 pairs in the whole country, and the girl's purpose in coming here is not to buy shoes. I just saw her handing the phone to the salesperson, asking if the shoes she was wearing were bought by this person or not. The boy took the phone and zoomed in to see it, confirming that it was the man in the photo who bought the shoes. After hearing this, the girl's face was surprised and she was even more certain of her thoughts. It turns out that just now, Inju learned that the boss is a pervert who is very interested in feet. She suspects that her best friend Young's death may be related to the company boss. And these high heels are a gift that the foot-loving boss gave to Young. After that, Inju went to her old company, looking for a female superior. From 100% certain they are seeing each other. The female superior thought that Young and the boss were colluding and stealing the company's huge assets. This point could be seen from the books, but she did not dare to report it because she was afraid her boss would retaliate against her. From there, she learned that the boss, who was doing illegal work at the old company, had an affair in the office. The girls he likes are all a fixed type. What type is it? Wearing cheap high heels. At this moment, I recall the warm eyes and nose when my boss looked at my feet. Inju feels scared. After grasping all kinds of clues, she went to find Finance Minister Duil to tell all the clues she had collected. At the same time, she also told him about her speculation that the boss encouraged Young to steal public funds. Then he assassinated Young, wanting to monopolize public funds. But unexpectedly, Young carefully transferred all the public funds in advance. In order to clarify her best friend's death, Inju continued to go to Young's apartment complex. She went to find the security guard of the camera viewing area the day Young was murdered. Who would have thought that the cameras on other days were all there, only the camera that day was missing. What was even more shocking was that even the cameras of nearby vehicles were also mysteriously lost that day. A few days later, Inju and Duil discovered through Young's previous chat history that Young and the boss were indeed in a secret relationship. As for Young, 4 years ago, she started collecting evidence of her boss's crimes. The end result was discovered by the boss. Come here for me. I'm standing at the door, answering the phone quickly. The two of them also discovered that the boss used this person's fate to threaten Young. Inju suddenly remembers Yang-suk as the person who took care of flowers for Young the other day. After that, the two went online to look up Yang-suk's clues but discovered that this person had also stolen public funds more than 10 years ago. Coincidentally, the death scene was exactly the same as that of Young. On her feet she also wore a pair of red high heels. The company Yang-suk worked for when she was alive was her boss's first company. Inju now boldly speculates that the red shoes that Young and Yang-suk were wearing when they died were probably the things their boss gave them. Young definitely knows that one day she will fall into the same fate as Yang-suk. That's why we collected evidence to sue the boss. If she tried a little harder, he would definitely be caught. Let's call the police. Unexpectedly, Duil would resolutely oppose. Duil said that if you report to the police, you will have to pay back another 70 billion. Anyway, this huge amount of money will be paid to the state treasury. Duil's thoughts made Inju extremely angry. She couldn't understand how he could sell his conscience so cheaply for money. She did not know that in this society of big fish and small fish, money is more sacred than anything. Returning home at night, Inju was extremely depressed. The negative feedback caused her to buy a lot of cosmetics that she normally wouldn't dare to buy. However, she did not feel happy at all. Right at the moment the second sister was curious if her sister was the same number. Inju came from outside the door and brought in a box of goods. Opened it up to take a look, and suddenly inside was a shoe box. And inside the shoe box is that pair of shoes. The red high heels made her head gradually numb. A close friend who was recently murdered and a person who was murdered 10 years ago also went to these two countries. Based on what Inju is investigating, it's possible that the victims were all murdered by their bosses. Inju angrily went to find the boss at the company and asked if she was the next target. He said he was just a pawn being used. His words surprised Inju. Why do you say you were taken advantage of? Obviously the person who died was Hwa-young. He tells Inju that Hwa-young is not as simple as she seems. It was thought that Hwa-young did not know any English, but in fact, she soon opened an account at Tui Bank. In his eyes, Hwa-young was doing something dangerous on her own. She didn't know that there were many extremely dangerous people in this world. Inju heard those words and wanted to report to the police. But he said it was better for her not to do that, because at this time he will personally go to the police to turn himself in. He said he would plead guilty to all charges of illegal trading. At most, he was sent to prison for 5 years. He also told Inju to stop looking for him. If not, don't blame him for dragging everyone involved into prison with him. He drove away. But he hadn't gone far when the car suddenly had problems. What is this? Damned! His car's brakes suddenly failed. Meanwhile the speed automatically increases. While he was extremely panicked, he saw that the car had a green orchid. He seemed to realize something. This same flower was inside Hwa-young's house. As a result, his car crashed from a high floor. Inju saw this scene and was extremely surprised. Her eyes said that she was extremely frightened. She did not know that her sister had also seen this flower. This man with glasses named Jae-sang is the mayor of Hwa-young. Although he belongs to the upper class, he bows his head to a criminal who has just been released from prison. Meanwhile, In-kyung is also an extremely brave and fearless girl. She is Inju's younger sister. Two people who had no relationship with each other met each other during a speech. Did you ever work as a lawyer in the Copper Bank deposit case? In the case, 32 people were accused, while 4 of them he defended committed suicide. She asked him what he thought about this. In-kyung's question surprised the crowd. The reporters kept turning to look at her. Faced with In-kyung's fatal questions, Jae-sang's face changed. He still tried to smile awkwardly and asked In-kyung again, "Hello, can you tell me your name?" In-kyung is not afraid of him at all. She gave her name and said she was a reporter for OBN. Then she went to the bathroom and regained her composure. She used wine to rinse her mouth and swallowed it down her stomach. When she left the bathroom, Jae-sang saw her and called her back. He asked her why she mentioned the case from 4 years ago. In-kyung said 4 years ago was when she had just become a reporter. That year many people deposited money in that bank. Just because they wanted to get high interest rates, they had to pay the price of losing all their money. In-kyung deeply sympathized with those people. Jae-sang also seemed touched by the story In-kyung told. Are you ready to cry? A colleague secretly filmed the conversation between In-kyung and Jae-sang. When In-kyung returned, that female colleague came over and forced her to take an alcohol test. In-kyung pushed her hand away. She immediately showed her boss the video. Are you crying? Her breathing was not very calm. There's also a little bit of alcohol. Do you drink alcohol? The other female colleague still wanted to continue checking on In-kyung. She kept refusing. The female colleague also searched In-kyung's desk. She discovered a bottle of wine. She opened In-kyung's drawer and saw many bottles of wine inside. In-kyung was suspended from work for 1 month for affecting the company's image by using alcohol. Meanwhile, In-ju gives In-hai money for extracurricular activities with her class. But In-hai got angry at In-ju. I told the teacher I won't participate in that extracurricular. After that, the girl made an excuse and left. In-ju immediately chased after her sister and saw her promoted to an extremely luxurious position. She followed and reached a villa. She saw a woman giving money to her sister. It turns out, In-hai secretly drew pictures for her classmates. Furthermore, the picture she drew later would be an important clue. At this time, In-kyung was suspended by the company for 1 month. Therefore, she cannot continue investigating the case 4 years ago. She called the nephew of the general manager of that bank. As soon as she said she was a reporter and asked about the incident that year, he hung up. Depressed, In-kyung goes to Jong-ho's house. She dines with Jong-ho and his grandfather. He also said that if she wanted to know more details, come find him at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. Early the next day, Jong-ho took her to meet this person. On the way, they accidentally saw a car accident. She arrived at the appointed location but couldn't find him. She called him but no one answered the phone. Only then did she remember the accident on the road just now. She had a bad feeling. She hurriedly drove to the scene of the accident just now. In-kyung calls his number and sees a phone on the street ringing. In-kyung understood that this person had already been harmed. At the same time, Jong-ho picked up a blue orchid flower. In the evening, when In-kyung sat watching the bus return, she saw on the big screen a female student winning an art contest. She recognized the winning painting as the painting her sister spent all night working on. While the father of the girl who won the award is the Seoul market, Jae-sang. Before that time, In-ju was still suspecting that her boss was the murderer of her best friend. Soon after, her boss died in a car accident. In-ju was extremely surprised. She ran down to save people, but there was no one around to help. She took the phone that fell on the ground to call an ambulance. When In-ju was trying to save his boss, his phone rang. She picked up the phone and heard the voice of the Minister of Finance. "Are you okay? Why did you just answer the director's phone now asking if something was wrong? Where are you so I can come over?" By this time the ambulance had arrived. In-ju now breathed a sigh of relief. At the emergency room, In-ju still couldn't calm down after the incident just now. When Do-il went to In-ju, she burst into tears because she was so shocked. "Are you okay? Are you injured?" Do-il gives In-ju the phone she just dropped at the scene. In-ju takes the phone back and tells Do-il what just happened. However, In-ju was so scared that she stuttered. "In-ju, the director is dead. Listen to what I say." After she resigned, she came to find him. After he finished talking, something happened to him. Do-il instructs In-ju that whoever asks her, she must answer like that. Only by answering like that will she not get into trouble. In-ju now regained her composure and thought calmly. She remembered when she had just answered the phone. The first question Do-il asked her was, "Are you okay?" It was clear that Do-il had long known that something would happen to the director. The director asking for an accident is definitely a conspiracy. Do-il tells In-ju, "You're already in trouble." He showed her a video. The video shows Hwa-young's secret that she manages up to 2 billion won. One day before she lost contact, she withdrew 2 billion won in cash. "I heard the amount was up to 20 billion won. In-ju began to listen to Do-il say more. He believes that Hwa-young cannot have the opportunity to bring such a large amount of cash to escape abroad. She must have had accomplices in Korea. However, strangely, in Korea, Hwa-young has no relatives or relatives. Her only friend is In-ju. Hearing Do-il's analysis, In-ju felt guilty and didn't dare look at him. Do-il believes that the 70 billion won was appropriated by the director and then blamed all the crimes on a dead person, Hwa-young. That is a common trick of directors. Do-il advises In-ju to stop investigating Hwa-young's death, otherwise the outcome will be tragic. The next day, In-ju continued to work, because she was scared so she planned to act as if she didn't know anything. But when she saw Hwa-young's vase of orchids, she felt something. She opened the book and discovered a letter inside. She opened it to read and discovered that it was a letter Hwa-young wrote to someone. "Thank you for bringing me flowers last time, I'm doing well for now." In-ju sees the recipient's name. She recalls the letter Hwa-young left her that also mentioned this name. Hwa-young plans to wait for the orchids to bloom and then bring them to One to conquer. In the afternoon, In-ju brought a vase of flowers and a bag of money to meet One. She told him what happened recently and put the money on the table. She asked him what he should do now, should he return the money or call the police. He said reporting it to the police would have no effect. It even benefits Hwa-young's accusers. He took a file from the floor and gave it to In-ju. He told her these were all secret accounting books. It's something that big people want to take over at this time. In-ju opened it to see. She understood that if Hwa-young had had these documents at that time, she would not have died. In-ju doesn't understand why he gave it to her. The two were talking when suddenly there was a bell outside. "I'm Do-il." The two hurriedly packed up their documents. One takes In-ju to the window and tells her to jump down. Do-il was outside calling the building staff to open the door. When he entered, he only saw One. It turns out that Do-il investigated and discovered that the person holding the secret books was One. One now gave all the books to In-ju to hold. He was relieved and let Do-il search his house. Unexpectedly, Do-il discovered the phone that In-ju dropped at One's house. Do-il looked at the phone and understood everything. In-hai has a dream of studying abroad and accepts to sell her personality. In-kyung discovers that the painting her sister drew was the winning work of another female student. In-kyung thought her sister was being bullied at school, so she found In-hai to ask for clarification. As a result, she discovered that her younger sister wanted to study abroad, so she painted for the rich family's daughter. In-kyung told her sister that this was illegal. Not only that, In-hai did that and sold out her personality. What is personality? If it comes at a high price, I won't refuse. In-kyung still did not give up trying to convince her sister. Her younger sister texted her to inform her that she had an appointment with a classmate. Later, In-kyung learned from her sister's classmate that In-hai was going to Park Jae-sang's house. Jae-sang's daughter Si Yao-jin won a painting prize, so she held a party at home. In-kyung heard the news and immediately came here. She wanted to go in, but the security guard blocked her way. Soo-in realizes In-kyung is a reporter and doesn't let her in. In-kyung says her sister is inside. At this time Jae-sang came. "What is your sister's name?" In-kyung ignored them and rushed inside to find her sister. Their distinguished guests were noticed by In-kyung. In-hai, come here quickly. Is that your sister? In-hai nodded in acknowledgement. She felt that her sister made her lose face. In-kyung was taken out by security because of rioting. In-kyung calls her sister but she doesn't listen. Hyo-rin's father approached In-hai. He said he highly valued her talent. He said he would invest in her developing her talent. His wife is also by his side and says they have made a plan for In-hai's development. In-hai's eyes were opened by those sweet words. In-kyung went to the grocery store to buy wine, and after drinking it, the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She will make those people aware. In-hai, come home with me. In-hai, get out quickly. She told you to get out quickly. In-hai felt embarrassed. The woman realized that and brought In-hai into the room. At this time, In-kyung's colleagues at the company hated her so they filmed it. Meanwhile, Jae-sang was extremely pleased when he saw In-kyung's appearance at this time. In-hai said goodbye to them and left. At this time, the police also received the news and arrested In-kyung for causing public disorder. Jae-sang came out to help In-kyung but she didn't even thank him. Jae-sang, Hyo-rin's father, you don't have anything and you still want to steal a poor girl away. In-kyung tells Jae-sang that she won't let him take her sister away. At this time, Jae-sang's wife got mad at Soo-in for not investigating In-kyung's identity clearly. They were in trouble now because In-kyung was a stubborn girl. She asked her husband what the next step should be. However, Jae-sang only felt that things were becoming more and more exciting. He is confident that In-kyung will not dare to act rashly because he already knows her weakness. Meanwhile, In-kyung, who had just escaped from Mrs. In-kyung was waiting for the bus that was driven by In-kyung. Last night, In-kyung was at home washing clothes. Suddenly she discovered a suitcase placed inside the washing machine. The suitcase was filled with cash. When In-ju returned, In-kyung asked her sister if this money was related to the company's dead people. In-kyung tells In-ju that this is illegal. If you take this money, I will report it to the police. If you like, call the police. You will spend all this money and then go to jail. Just what did In-kyung go through that made her say such desperate words? At this time, Do-ael told her to get in the car. He now knows the secret books are in In-kyung's hands. He also knew that she was keeping the other 2 billion won. However, he did not want to steal these things from her but proposed to cooperate. Do-ael tells In-ju, one is not a simple person. He is the cousin of Seoul Mayor Park Jae-sang. However, in the struggle for power, he lost to Park Jae-sang. Then he had neurological problems. He gave her the documents because he wanted her to depose Park Jae-sang. That way he can take revenge without having to show his face. In-ju thought about what Do-ael just said. She alone is too small to compete with those other characters. Therefore she needs Do-ael's help. Meanwhile, In-kyung was visiting Jong-ho's house when she received a phone call. However, he soon died. In-kyung answered the phone and the person on the other end recognized him as his younger brother. He asked her to meet her and gave her the USB his brother was about to give her on the day of the accident. She plugs into Jong-ho's computer and watches the video. She discovered Jae-sang put something in the patient's hand. After the patient regained consciousness and brushed his teeth and washed his face, he died in the bathroom. In-kyung was curious as to why when Jong-ho noticed a detail in the video. In the victim's hand was something blue. That person even picked it up and smelled it. While eating, In-kyung discovered an orchid in Jong-ho's house. He told her that this was the flower he picked up at the scene where the bank president's nephew had an accident. In-kyung suddenly realized that it was possible that the other patient was smelling orchids. It seems that's true. The size is quite similar and the color is also the same. Could it be the same flower? Meanwhile, In-hai is getting ready to go to school when In-ju gives her pocket money. She told her again that she wanted to study abroad in Boston next month. In-ju didn't understand anything and asked her sister to explain clearly. In-hai agreed to Jae-sang's request and will go abroad to study with his daughter. In-ju was extremely angry. She told her sister that there is no free lunch in this world. Who would have thought In-hai would get angry at her older sister? The girl left. However, how could In-ju not intervene in her sister's affairs when she was in danger? She goes to Jae-sang's house. She tells Jae-sang's wife that she will not let her sister study abroad. She took the money out of her pocket and put it on the table. Jae-sang's wife immediately smiled and gave In-ju the iPad. In-ju looked at the picture on the iPad and was a little surprised. Why are you alone under the tree? It's not me, it's my sister. The sister is dead. She tells In-ju that In-hai is a highly independent girl. I understand that you do many things for your sister, but unfortunately, this encounter deeply hurt her inside. She leaves Jae-sang's house. At this time, Jae-sang's wife targeted In-ju. Because why can a poor girl like In-ju take out a large amount of money to pay her sister's tuition fees to study abroad? Not only that, In-ju also wore a pair of branded high heels. Where does she get her money from? Have you encountered such an unreasonable younger brother? Inju wanted to buy a house for they live in, but In-kyung was not grateful and wanted to break off relations with her sister. Last night, Inju went to see her biological aunt. She owns a very large restaurant in Korea. She told her she had 2 million gong, which was money lent to her by a close friend. She wanted to ask her aunt to find a small room for her so she could live together. Her aunt once did something wrong to her sisters, so she tried to find Inju an apartment in Seoul. She thought of the three sisters no longer needing to live in a shabby room, they would live in a clean and comfortable apartment. She felt very fragrant, so she called In-kyung to tell her the good news. If she insisted on doing so, we would cut off our relationship. I can't accept this approach, don't call me anymore. After speaking, In-kyung immediately turned off the phone, making Inju very angry. After hanging up the phone, In-kyung went to see the nurse. The two watched the video together. While the nurse was preparing the medicine, the perpetrator appeared and stared at his prey. She wanted to silently inject anesthetic into the perpetrator, but he raised his head to look at her. His eyes scared her, she quickly backed away, not daring to act rashly. She asked the nurse who gave the bouquet of flowers. The nurse said she didn't know why he was holding it. She took a sample and gave it to the nurse, asking if it was that flower. That's right, she took the book that Jong-ho gave her. The book says that this flower is so rare that researchers have to go deep into the forest to search for it. Live in dangerous terrain, some people even lose their lives. Therefore, it is nicknamed the death flower. This strange but rare flower can temporarily relieve your pain, but at the same time make you more sensitive. Your heart beats fast, your legs are unsteady. It turns out that when In-hai's younger sister and her sisters argued, she went to her best friend's house to stay. Your best friend's mother also loves you very much, and wants to ask you to paint a portrait for her. She took her downstairs. In-hai was very surprised by the scene in front of her. A giant tree is growing in the house, with many blue flowers blooming on the tree. She said that this was her father's treasure. Is this flower for you? Although I really want to give it to you, I will still put it back. She said that by putting the flower back on the tree, the flower can survive. Then she started drawing pictures for her aunt, but the more she drew, the more difficult it became to breathe, and her face turned white. She sweated a lot, she even had hallucinations. She saw a child running on the road. A second later she suddenly fell to the ground. When she heard the news, Inju rushed to the hospital. The doctor told her that her younger sister, who was just over 20 years old, had a hereditary heart disease. If she didn't have surgery quickly, her sister would be in danger. She quickly called her mother who was hiding far away in the Philippines and she told her a secret. It turns out she also has a younger sister. When she was young, her sister suddenly fainted and remained unconscious. At that time, the family went bankrupt. So, her parents took In-kyung to her aunt's house. And Inju and her two younger sisters and their parents fled everywhere. At that time, because I did not have enough money for treatment, my sister passed away. Inju is only 8 years old but already knows that if she doesn't have money she will die. In-hai is unconscious, her sister also has heart disease, if not treated promptly, she will die. But the surgery was too expensive, she couldn't afford it. After surgery, they will spend a lot of money to buy medicine. This made the two sisters very worried. Suddenly Inju thought about that illegal money. She decided to use that money to save her brother's life. Even if she goes to jail, she doesn't care. Even if you want to cut ties with me, right now, the investigation team is discussing it. Jae-sang's butler has been following Inju for several days. Her tricks are also very brutal. At the company, she dared to confront the finance department and never let herself suffer a disadvantage. Du-il stared at Soo-in. He thought she had investigated something. He called Inju and told her not to touch the money for now, but she intended to use it for her sister's surgery. How could she listen to him? That's my whole life. At this time, she opened the prison door, intending to take money and take it to the hospital. At that moment, she heard a noise outside. That's Soo-in. She quickly put the money in her bag, but her movements were discovered by Soo-in. She took out a photo, which captured the moment she was taking money from the sack. She begged Soo-in to temporarily lend her 1 million. Unexpectedly, she laughed at her and slapped her once. She said she could lend her money but let her get beaten 10 times. If you can bear it, I will lend you a loan. Although Inju was scared, she agreed. Keep going, keep going. Why did Soo-in hit her so hard? But the next action was even more terrifying. Soo-in asked a friend to give him a wooden sword. She used all her strength to hit Inju. She was in so much pain that she cried. I warn you, next will be the head area. It will be very painful but she is extremely resilient. There are still 5 more left. When Soo-in was about to strike, a hand stopped her. Haven't I warned you to never touch her? But Soo-in said that one agreed to be beaten and one wanted to be beaten. Inju immediately sat up and told her to play 5 more times. That way she would have money to save her sister. When Soo-in was about to strike, Sang-ah walked in. Seeing Inju's face bruised, Sang-ah felt very sorry. Sang-ah wants to teach Soo-in a lesson. After that, the two went to a 5-star restaurant to eat, and she shivered because of the cold weather. Sang-ah took off his jacket and put it on her. She suddenly saw Sang-ah wearing the same shoes as Hwa-young. There are only 3 pairs in the whole of Korea. Sang-ah said he and Hwa-young are close friends. These shoes were given to Hwa-young by Sang-ah. Sang-ah's purpose in calling her here was to ask her to be his assistant. Her job is extremely simple, just arrange documents and take care of flowers. That was also Hwa-young's job in the past. But she is extremely smart and knows this is very dangerous. She was about to refuse, but in the end, because of her 2 younger sisters, she still accepted this job. Sang-ah was extremely satisfied. She promised to pay her a high salary, and even agreed to pay for her sister's surgery. At that moment, In-hai's condition became increasingly serious, requiring immediate surgery. Luckily the surgery was successful, but Jae-sang and his wife did not have any good intentions. When their sister was recovering from illness, they called reporters. He wants to show the model of an ideal and successful man. In-kyung is extremely impatient. Can you stop? My sister needs rest. Then she pulled her sister out. In-kyung doesn't understand why her sister took money from Jae-sang to treat her sister. Don't you have money? Why not take it and rely on someone else? She said that the money was also Jae-sang's and she had already paid him. While the two were arguing, Jae-sang arrived. He said don't cut off the investigation just because he saved his sister. He also said he didn't mean to brag about saving their sister. She left without asking any questions. Suddenly In-ju's aunt came in and asked him to give her money. Your name is Jae-sang, right? That's right, ma'am, I know your father. We used to do business together, but his smile was no longer bright. At this time, Do-il investigated some shocking news. The subordinate he had asked to go to Singapore had just called to report to him. He was so surprised that in the evening he called her to the rooftop. He showed her pictures of a luxury villa. It's yours. It turned out that 3 years ago, her best friend went to Singapore to buy a villa in her name. After that, she deposited 70 million won in 7 different banks where she was the recipient. Her insides were so shaken that she looked straight into his eyes. I want to go to Singapore immediately. The man coldly told his daughter to call her mother and ask when she would return. He then called In-ju, his wife's newly hired secretary, to ask where his wife had gone. In-ju tells Sang-ah to go to Singapore, where a friend of hers apparently inaugurated a company. The man searched online and saw pictures of his wife and other guests chatting and laughing happily online. He gave the newly printed photo in his hand to Do-il, telling him that he would have to bring his wife back tomorrow. This series of crazy actions by Jae-sang made In-ju extremely terrified. She pulled Do-il out to the small garden next to the villa and said that this man was not normal. If this family finds out that they plan to take 70 billion won, that guy will definitely kill them. Do-il holds In-ju's shoulders, telling her to calm down. He said that he used In-ju's name to open a company to deceive. Wait until they get to Singapore and transfer 70 billion there. Then, tell In-ju to give him the books. He will take the books to find Jae-sang to negotiate, and In-ju just needs to find a safe place to hide. Having finished speaking, he also took out pictures of famous resorts for In-ju to see. He painted a good future for both of them. Jae-sang's words broke In-ju's doubts towards him. She started to trust him. Very soon the next day, under Jae-sang's pressure, Sang-ah was forced to go home carrying his luggage. The man asked his wife why she had to go to Singapore. She said she went there to drink champagne, shopping, and flirt with a handsome, healthy guy. The man knew his wife was lying, then walked forward, grabbed her hand, and asked what happened in Singapore. She said that she never lied, unlike someone who always lies to the house staff. Standing up and flipping through his wife's luggage, Jae-sang seemed to have no intention of stopping. The warm sounds of the couple scared Hyo-rin's daughter into running into the bed next to her best friend In-hai. Then the camera saw his mother's painful expression. Hyo-rin blamed herself for not being able to do anything. Seeing her best friend heartbroken, In-hai gave her painting. She said she often sees very scary scenes, and normally she draws it. Drawing like this will gradually forget all fear. A few days later, In-hai called In-ju from the extra class, telling her to bring Hyo-rin's phone, which she forgot at home. In-ju followed the phone's ringing sound and discovered a painting under Hyo-rin's bed. Inside the picture is a familiar wardrobe along with red high heels. In-ju went to the extra class, then asked Hyo-rin what was going on. Hyo-rin cried and said she didn't know anything. Seeing her sister make her best friend cry, In-hai went to blame her. Sister, what's wrong with you? That's what I asked him to draw. In-hai said that she encouraged Hyo-rin, telling her to draw a scene that she found scary. In-ju listened and later told Hyo-rin that she had actually seen that scene. Her best friend died in her room seemingly like that. Returning home at night, the In-ju sisters discovered that Hyo-rin suddenly disappeared for no reason. They searched the whole villa but could not find her trace. In-ju turned on the villa's camera and discovered Hyo-rin in the parking lot. In-ju panicked and called Hyo-rin's name. Hyo-rin collapsed into In-ju's arms. A phone fell out. In-ju then discovered that inside the dropped phone was the camera tape from the 17th of last month. The direction of the car in the recorded camera footage was towards Young's house. The figure appearing in the video made her feel even more shocked. This person is Jae-sang. That day, Hyorin's father went to Young's sister's house, the girl's first day from her aunt's company. The aunt who directly let her be the general manager. Wait a minute, CEO, what's going on? Did you clearly just tell me to come work temporarily and that's it? She ran a company with an unusually high debt ratio. For the past 3 years, revenue has continuously suffered losses, so Jae-sang's butler went alone to find Do-il. Turns out she was on camera and discovered Do-il had a private meeting with In-ju, even though the camera couldn't see the content of the conversation between the two of them. However, Soo-in still suspects that In-ju and Do-il are plotting to get the other 70 billion. Who would have thought that Do-il would say that he was currently pursuing In-ju, and after saying that, he leisurely turned around and left. Then In-kyung and Jong-ho went to a university together, just because a botanist once told them the workers here used to grow blue orchids. The old man took the two of them to the botanical garden and saw the orchid inside the display case. Jong-ho asked the old man where he could get such a precious flower. The old man said that the person who founded the school 40 years ago, General Young Kishin, was temporarily on the other side. Sang-ah asked In-ju to walk around with him. Just as she was about to get in the car to return home, Sang-ah discovered that in the distance someone from her husband had to follow her. Sang-ah suddenly asked her if she knew where Young was. Then the two of them went to the house where Young died, seeing the place where Young's body used to hang. Both women in this room told each story that happened between themselves and Young. Sang-ah in front of In-ju revealed a pitiful appearance. At night in a small pub, In-ju spoke to Do-il. Do-il said to the stupid girl in front of him, Sang-ah is actually not simple. She did so just because she wanted to gain In-ju's trust. Because Young is dead, she needs a second Young. At this point, Do-il seems to like In-ju more and more. The second sister, In-kyung, pressed the message to tell the police to quickly come find her. She found dangerous content related to Do-il. In-kyung told her sister that Do-il was an expert in black money laundering and told her to stay away from him. Jong-ho also told In-ju that he went to high school with Do-il. At that time in school he had a girlfriend. However, after the summer vacation ended, the female student was no longer seen. Right when In-ju felt that the two were thinking too much, she raised her head and saw a green orchid on the table, almost identical to the one she saw in Young's room. She picked up a similar flower at the scene of the leader's car accident. Jong-ho says this is impossible because it is the most expensive orchid in the world. Until In-ju took out the capital she had hidden, In-kyung placed two flowers side by side to compare. The next day In-kyung immediately ran to the television station, wanting to tell this story to his superiors. Who would have thought that in the hall he would bump into her? Her expression this time was extremely unusual. In-kyung was already working and didn't pay too much attention. She told him all the orchids that appeared at the crime death scene, along with speculation that it was related to the Jae-sang family. Just when the leader felt that this speculation was too wild, and sounded very much like the plot of a novel, his phone suddenly rang. After answering the phone call, the leader told In-kyung that at the same time, the Human Resources Council decided to officially dismiss In-kyung. In-kyung angrily walked to her house, ignoring the butler who rushed inside. And the aunt inside the room was gently calling someone. I went to see your director and asked him to fire me, saying that I wouldn't do that. In-kyung thought for a while, rushed into Jae-sang's election lecture hall, and did something terrible. What happened in the end? All the evidence against him was turned into something beneficial to his opponents. Their younger sister was the key reason. He held a press conference and admitted in front of reporters that this was the truth. But 3 years ago, before his father passed away, all real estate assets had reached 20 billion. He also showed a photo of his father's poor life. He admitted that his father worked as a driver for the general for more than 40 years. Although he has huge assets, he has only ever lived in a small house, raising his only son alone. According to his investigation, that year when his father-in-law had a stroke, he transferred all his assets to his father's name. Because of this, he formed a dishonest relationship. Currently, 2 old men, one has passed away, the other is in a coma, and as his son, he is also very sad. Now, Jae-sang decided to use that money to invest in the corporation that they and their husband run. Each year, scholarships will be provided to more than 1,000 students. Among them are genius mathematicians, aviation programmers, athletes, and artists. After his eloquent speech, he received thunderous applause at the exact moment a colleague asked a question. Did In-kyung's younger sister In-hye receive benefits and scholarships from the group? Unexpectedly, there was nothing to say. This answer seemed to explode, not only building a good image, but also pushing all the blame onto In-kyung's head. On this side, Do-il told In-ju that 70 billion was Jae-sang's election money. Originally planning to return home from abroad on election day, Young unexpectedly stole it. She wants to use the books to exchange that 70 billion. The condition is that Jae-sang must publicly choose to lose the books exceeding 70 billion to succeed. At this moment, the aunt immediately told In-kyung to return. On this side, In-kyung chases In-hye. She didn't understand why her sister became a stepping stone for evil. In-kyung wants to take her sister home, but In-hai chooses instead. After Jae-sang bowed to pay his respects, In-kyung was completely defeated. She was immediately surrounded by reporters. In-ju grabbed her hand, using her body to shield his sister from the crowd. In her aunt's file room, she found out that since 1970, she has always invested in real estate with Jae-sang's father. She asked what their relationship was. The aunt said that from the bottom of society to the top of the upper class, there were people of their own, who could let the three sisters leave the world the next day. To protect her nieces and her company, she had no way to tell In-kyung. However, In-kyung still refused to give up. She also found out that in 1988, there were 8 people involved Ministry of Defense to speculate in real estate, leading to the sudden death of a senior official. She advised In-kyung to stop here from today's temporary stay, and informed the bodyguards to increase the level of protection for her. At this age, she just wanted to sleep quietly. However, In-kyung still decided to leave. This time, Jae-sang's voting rate increased by more than 5% compared to his opponent. He happily let Do-il take a trip to Singapore because he needed a large amount of cash. Then tell the secretary to deal with In-kyung. The secretary soon investigated this girl. However, when she offered to deal with In-ju, Sang-ah said she was working for her, and Do-il also assured him he would keep an eye on her. Jae-sang then told Do-il to choose and do it. At the same time when In-kyung was writing Jae-sang's father's estate, she remembered the address that Mr. Kim had given her. She wanted to go into her aunt's office to look for documents, but she didn't expect that all the cabinets were empty. It turned out that the aunt had ordered the secretary to destroy all the documents earlier today. In the end, the photo taken together was shredded in front of In-kyung. On this side, Sang-ah asked In-ju to take the trip to Singapore for her. It turns out that people often use art to avoid taxes and launder money. However, using orchids is easier. Every year she calls to bid, and Hwa-young will participate in the live auction on her behalf. As for In-ju, she has 2 younger sisters. When she has someone she loves, she won't dare to do anything risky. Sang-ah gave In-ju an orchid, told her to put it at the head of the bed so she could see what she really wanted to see. Also said that In-ju's remuneration for going to Singapore is very high. If she performs well in Singapore, she will be allowed to join the International Orchid Association. In-kyung trembled as she opened the door. The scene before her eyes made her speechless. Just a few hours earlier, In-hai had a feeling that something big was about to happen. She told Hyorin to take a deep breath, and then the scent of orchids recalled the girl wearing red high heels hanging there. She must have seen it somewhere. Finally, she remembered it was the dusty little attic. Just as they were about to go up and explore a bit, Hyorin's mother called back. On this side, In-kyung finally put the photo together. However, the people above did not know anyone, but on the back of the photo was written the time and the word Orchid Love Society. This place mentioned her because she wanted to quit using a type of chocolate instead. In the documents, In-kyung discovered the name of Old Man Kim, the employee involved in the bank case that year. Therefore, she quickly called Jong-ho to ask for help. The owners of this piece of land are Jae-sang's father-in-law, Jae-sang's father, the school principal, the deceased military officer, the deceased Mr. Kim and her aunt. These are all members of Orchid Love Society. The time in the photo is also the day they bought this piece of land. In-ju brought the orchids given to him by Sang-ah back home, only to be seen by Do-il. Do-il tells In-ju that keeping this flower is dangerous. However, In-ju believed Sang-ah's words. This orchid had also been introduced on TV before, and after speaking, she turned around, hugged the orchid, and went home. In-ju sat on the bed and smelled the scent of orchids. Her consciousness gradually became vague. She went to her aunt's study room and talked to her in an unusual manner. In her eyes, watching everyone die, why did she still choose to become Sang-ah? Waiting for her aunt to understand everything, she objected to denouncing Jae-sang because his power was too great. In-ju thinks that she is now very poor and has nothing to lose anymore. In her dream, she saw Hwa-young dead, and also saw the process of Jae-sang entering Hwa-young's house to commit a crime. However, she doesn't want to see this kind of person become mayor in the future. In-ju wanted to take advantage of the books in her hand to add to the secret that her aunt knew once to attack Jae-sang. When she mentioned orchids, her aunt immediately became nervous. In-ju's mental state became even more dreamy. Her aunt just thought she was tired and told her to go back to her room to rest, leaning her head on the sofa and saying that she and her aunt were very similar. Do-il was always guarding outside his aunt's house, until the close housekeeper left. He looked towards In-ju's room. In-ju woke up from the dream, mentally grabbed the orchid and started walking unconsciously. In-kyung saw her aunt covered in blood lying in In-ju's lap. The crime scene was not far away, and there was an orchid on the floor. In-ju looked at her sister with hateful eyes. At this moment, Do-il walked over and In-ju also fainted. In-kyung sees a blue orchid on the floor. At her funeral, Jae-sang's wife also attended. She told In-ju that In-ju's aunt used to be a nurse in Jae-sang's family. In-ju asked her why she gave her that orchid. Under the influence of the orchid, In-ju dreamed that Jae-sang was a murderer. After waking up from her dream, she went down to meet her aunt. But when she regained consciousness, her aunt had tragically died. However, Jae-sang's wife denies this. Meanwhile, her aunt's descendants are coming to hear the lawyer announce the property matter. The lawyer said that the amount of debt she carries is greater than her assets. These descendants immediately refused to inherit the property. They also said that In-kyung should be the one to shoulder this debt. Afterwards, the lawyer found In-kyung and delivered her relics to her. There was also a secret room card in there that even the lawyer didn't know about. Meanwhile, In-ju continues to look for Do-il. She suspected he already knew what was going to happen. Because every time new victims appear, In-ju finds that he is very calm. In-ju asks him to tell her the culprit, otherwise she won't go to Singapore. As long as Do-il helps her find the culprit, she agrees to give him 70 billion won. Faced with In-ju's question, Do-il was not angry at all. He just told In-ju to be safe and prepare to go to Singapore. He agreed to help her find the killer. In-kyung cried sadly when looking at the photo of himself with her. In-ju calls In-kyung and tells her sister to quickly check the news. The person who killed their aunt has confessed. This guy is her housekeeper. However, In-kyung believes that this guy is not the real killer, because for the past 3 years, her food has been cooked by this guy. If he wanted to kill her, he would have killed her a long time ago. At this time, In-kyung's best friend came to her house. Do-il believes that every time the murderer commits a murder, he will bring an orchid to the scene. The three of them rummaged around the house, but besides the orchid In-ju brought back, there were no other flowers left. At this time, Do-il relied on his mind and drew the design of the room. He guessed that there was still some secret room in this house. Sure enough, In-kyung found the secret agency. In the secret room, they discovered a cabinet and inside there was an orchid. Is this what it is? Two sisters, In-ju and In-kyung, also decided to join forces. They are determined to defeat the giants. Meanwhile, Jae-sang is planning to meet his wife. I didn't marry you because I wanted to be president. I really love you, that's why I want to be president. But his wife didn't want him to touch her. At this moment she felt like a bird trapped in a cage. Hyo-rin continues to be scared and hides in In-hai's room. Then she and In-hai went upstairs to the loft. Here, two girls are looking at a photo book. Her toy includes a hanging doll and a blue orchid placed underneath. Time goes back many days ago. In-kyung is showing In-ju the clues she collected about the Orchid Club. During the war, there were 12 soldiers and nurses. The In-ju sisters went to prison to meet a female prisoner, who was Do-il's mother. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison for murder in 1998. During the conversation, they learned that the case was going well that year. Also because of that case, Do-il was sent abroad to study. Mom is in prison and dad is missing. In recent years, Do-il has visited his mother many times and asked her the truth about the case. However, his mother did not tell him the answer. But now she knows her son is working for that organization. Because she was worried about her son, she asked In-ju to convey a sentence to her. If you want to find evidence, go from Fonglin Mountain to the northeast. Meanwhile, the news that In-ju and her sisters visited Do-il's mother in prison was discovered by Jae-sang. His butler asked if he wanted to kill the In-ju sisters. However, Jae-sang said the focus now lies on Do-il. He then tells the butler to send someone to follow Do-il. The next day, Do-il began investigating based on what his mother provided. At this time, In-ju and In-kyung also drove after him. The two also discovered that another car was following. Do-il also discovered and dealt with the stalker. After that, Do-il went up the mountain and looked down from above and saw a small wooden room. He went to that place and a man appeared. This person is his biological father who has been missing since 1998. The next day, Do-il angrily went to Jae-sang's house. He questioned Jae-sang why he sent someone to follow him. Is it because Jae-sang's trust is not enough for him? He then gives Jae-sang his father's address. Sure enough, very quickly a group of assassins found the forest. They broke into Do-il's father's room but found that there was no one there. Immediately afterwards, the room exploded. Do-il's father and Uncle Cho stood watching from afar. At the same time, In-hai discovered that Hyo-rin's toys were made by the International Student Association in New York. It is the 1995 graduation work and the person who created this work is Hyo-rin's mother. When In-hai came home from school, Jae-sang's wife threw her a pile of paper. In-hai then took a photo of the contents inside and sent it to her sister In-ju. I'm Sang-ah. I was locked up. My husband is really dangerous. Sang-ah wants In-ju to come to Singapore to help him withdraw some cash. In-hai had just sent the information to In-ju when Jae-sang came to her. He takes In-hai to the rooftop and tells In-hai to choose the right side. Meanwhile, In-hai went to class and was dragged into the warehouse by a stranger. It turns out this is her older sister In-ju. She tells In-hai that she is going to Singapore and may not be able to return. She gave her sister a phone and told her to go with Sang-ah to Singapore to find her. When In-ju was about to leave, In-hai gave her a memory card as a birthday gift. So In-hai chose to side with her sister. In the evening, In-ju went out to eat with Do-il. He recalls the mission Jae-sang gave him. If you want me to continue to trust you, then get rid of Inju. Jae-sang told Do-il to get rid of Inju. If Inju hasn't died by tomorrow, the person who will die will be you. Do-il met Inju, saying he had received a mysterious email. Inju enlarged the photo and discovered that the tattoo on her leg was Hwa-young's. Inju and Do-il immediately bought plane tickets to Singapore. Meanwhile, at home, In-kyung hears a noise downstairs. She immediately picked up her weapon and went down to check. She discovers that someone is observing the clues she is investigating. She turned on the light and saw that it was Do-il's father. In-kyung didn't feel scared and asked him if there was anything wrong with the clues she was gathering. He tells In-kyung that their aunt is not considered part of the organization. He also said that In-kyung's aunt's death was probably related to their investigation. He took her to his car and turned on the ignition to see a cache of weapons. He told her that he lived in the mountains for 20 years to hide. His purpose is not to want his son Do-il to become Jae-sang's murderer. Therefore, he decided to kill Jae-sang. He came to In-kyung because he hoped that after his assassination, she would reveal all the truth to the public. However, In-kyung objects to his plan. She didn't want him to use violence to solve the problem. Meanwhile, In-hai and Hyorin wanted to rescue Sang-ah, who was locked up by Jae-sang. In-hai hacked into the security system, then she opened Jae-sang's door and took all the documents. After that, they used a ladder and climbed up to Sang-ah's room at night. At this point, In-hai realized she had fallen into a dangerous spiral. When Hyorin climbed into her mother's room, while she told her mother to run away, her mother said she had already made up with her father. She also said they would be released tomorrow. Meanwhile, Inju and Do-il have arrived in Singapore. Strange things kept happening. Inju checked in, but when the employee saw Inju's passport, he suddenly felt very surprised. Then, the manager came, he very solemnly welcomed In-hai and arranged for her in the presidential suite. The reason is because Inju is their MEP guest, she is more senior than a VIP guest. The next day, the two went to the cafe that Hwa-young had passed by. Do-il showed the photo to the waiter and asked if they had seen this person. The employee smiled and told Do-il the surprising news. Isn't this woman her? Both Inju and Do-il still don't understand anything. He came out here to ask Inju if she had a twin sister. To clarify the truth, the two went to an apartment complex. The strange thing is that everyone here seems to know Inju. Seeing Inju and Do-il can't open the password, two guards came over. A guard says, "Didn't Miss Inju just leave?" I looked at her and felt very strange. During the auction, Inju paid a high price to buy a mutant orchid. During the auction, she saw the shadow of Hwa-young, who should no longer be alive. Inju hurriedly chased after her. Do-il tells Inju to calm down. At this point, what needs to be done is to withdraw all 70 billion won. Withdrawing this money is not easy. Meanwhile, Jae-sang finds In-hai. He said he knew his daughter had climbed into her mother's room last night. He also said he discovered their plan to escape to Singapore. Jae-sang warns In-hai that his subordinates in Singapore are already on the move. In-hai calls Inju but no one answers. She's worried about Inju and calls In-kyung. She tells In-kyung to call and tell Inju to be on the lookout for Do-il. Meanwhile, Inju is going with Do-il to the bank in Singapore. Inju receives news from her sister In-kyung. In-kyung tells Inju to be careful of Do-il and says the words In-hai recounted. Inju is once again suspicious of Do-il. After getting in the car, she asked Do-il what to do next after withdrawing money. Do-il took out a gun, loaded it with bullets, and gave it to Inju. He said if she didn't believe him, she could use a gun to shoot him. His words made Inju feel much more secure. Meanwhile, Jae-sang just learned that his wife is running away. He got angry and asked his daughter where her mother was going. He didn't care that his daughter was scared and panicked. He immediately assigned the butler the task of using every means to find Sang-ah's return. When Do-il was in the hospital and crying sadly, she couldn't believe that her mother had abandoned her and left alone. In-hai is smart and discovers the crux of the problem. Why did Jae-sang find out about this when even the guards didn't know? She ventured into Jae-sang's office, and sure enough, she discovered that he was monitoring everything. She even discovered something extremely unexpected. Meanwhile, Inju was taking the test when an old woman bumped into her. Suddenly she put a piece of paper in her hand and looked outside. Inju looked in that direction and saw Hwa-young's figure. Do-il is talking right now. Inju took advantage of him not paying attention and opened the paper to look. Inju now placed her trust in Hwa-young. Inju took advantage of the moment when Do-il came in to help her with money, so she took her suitcase and ran away. She got into the car that Hwa-young had prepared for her. At this moment her phone rang. However, because she was too worried, Inju did not hear. A car chased after Inju's car. The driver quickly accelerated to cut off the tail. However, right then a truck crashed into the car waiting for Inju. Inju fainted right in the car. Her phone is ringing with Do-il Kyung calling. At the hospital, a familiar voice rang in Inju's ear. Inju seemed to see a glimpse of Hwa-young. She woke up and saw a pair of shoes next to the bed. These are Hwa-young's shoes. Do-il then angrily went to the hospital. But when he arrived, Inju had already left. He suddenly felt bad. In-ju, in order to investigate the truth, despite being seriously injured, she went to the location written on the note. She was so thirsty that she drank the glass of water on the table. She waited until it was dark, until there was a sound outside the door. She was extremely excited and ran out to see that the person entering was Sang-ah. Meanwhile, In-hai is showing Hyorin the video in Jae-sang's office. The day Hwa-young was killed, in the video Sang-ah went out wearing a fur coat. But when she returned, she was wearing a different outfit. In-hai told Hyorin that when Hwa-young died, she had a fur coat on her. Hearing that, Hyorin immediately shed tears. Meanwhile, In-ju just encountered Sang-ah. In-ju just realized that Hwa-young is really dead, and she is also about to be killed. It turns out that on the first day In-ju joined the company, Sang-ah noticed her. Sang-ah wasted all her effort acting and deceiving In-ju. It turns out, the whole thing was a play that she wrote herself. Anyone in that play is just her tool. In the ending of Sang-ah's play, the ending she drew, In-ju is a Korean girl who loves money. Later, In-ju would be charged with fraud, and when discovered, she would jump off a building and kill herself. In-ju is feeling dizzy. Sang-ah says she has prepared everything for In-ju's death. However, at this time, In-ju said she wanted to see the 70 billion won with her own eyes before killing her. Sang-ah suddenly became excited. She went to the suitcase and opened it and was extremely surprised. There was no money in the suitcase. Sang-ah turned around to look at In-ju in surprise and saw In-ju pointing a gun at her. She loaded the gun and said one last sentence. She thought it was just dramatic and I acted well. It was an unexpected turn of events when In-ju was not trapped at all, even though In-ju was mocking her for turning the tables. Sang-ah calmly called 3 bodyguards to seize the guns. I thought you could do something about it, but you're so stupid. Sang-ah mocking In-ju is useless. In-ju still thinks she's smart. She thought that if she only got the 70 billion won, Sang-ah would forgive her. Unexpectedly, as soon as he opened the door, Do-il rushed in and punched them. But when he saw In-ju being held at gunpoint, Do-il was worried about her, so he chose to surrender. But when she was about to squeeze it, Do-il smiled. He pulled out the phone from his pocket. On the other end of the line is Jae-sang calling. Jae-sang told her to stop what she was doing even though she said she was well prepared. It turned out that In-kyung had come to find Jae-sang to hand over the books in exchange for In-ju's safety. Faced with Jae-sang's orders, Sang-ah could only spare In-ju. Jae-sang burns the secret notebook and tells In-kyung the shocking news. It turns out that the superior that In-kyung respects is also a member of Jae-sang's evil organization. In-kyung was angry and went to find his superior to question him. She hoped Jae-sang's words weren't true. The superior has revealed his true face. He told In-kyung that this organization was extremely large. He advised In-kyung to give up if she still wanted to live. In-kyung sadly went to find Jong-ho to drink. Jong-ho also advised In-kyung to give up and go with him to America to live. I like you. Besides you, I don't like anyone else. I want to get married with you. However, In-kyung refused and said my sister already told me. We should clearly draw boundaries. After speaking, she left. In-kyung sat in front of her aunt's house. In-kyung is now completely discouraged by the harsh reality. She could only agree with Do-il's father's way of doing things. He will go directly to kill Do-il. He tells In-kyung to announce the entire truth to the public. In-kyung was extremely hesitant. Meanwhile, In-ju is in Singapore. Do-il asked In-kyung where she kept the other 70 billion won and what the bricks in the suitcase were like. In-ju tells Do-il where she kept the money. He touched In-ju's neck and saw that her pulse was still active, so he felt reassured. The next day, In-ju woke up in the hotel. Oh my god, what is this? Why do you watch other people go to sleep? After Do-il took out the money, he divided it with In-ju. He told In-ju to use this money and take his sister to another place to live. He also pointed out things that In-ju should pay attention to. She felt like Do-il's words were saying goodbye to her and never seeing her again. Do-il tells In-ju that Sang-ah is a forgetful woman. However, she will not forgive Do-il because his situation is much more complicated. Meanwhile, after Sang-ah returned home, the first thing she did was go to bed with her husband. She told her husband to get rid of In-kyung. After 5 minutes, Jae-sang was done. He then assigns the task of killing In-kyung to Soo-in. Meanwhile, In-ju was preparing to board the plane when she received a call from Jong-ho saying In-kyung was in trouble. The girl had just woken up and discovered she was locked in the murderer's room. When I opened the closet door, I didn't see a robe or high heels, nor was there a body in there. Strangely enough, there are strange drawings engraved on the cabinet door. It seems like someone was locked in here. The girl continued to see 2 letters written in lipstick that meant run away. The person who came was Hyorin's mother, Sang-ah. In-hai seemed to feel like she couldn't leave this room anymore. How will I finally die? Back to 1 day ago, Sang-ah still hasn't returned from Singapore. After Hyorin learns that her mother is a perverted murderer, she wants to plan an escape with In-hai. In-hai quickly came up with a plan to escape. The two decided to perform a faux play together to complete this plan. But unexpectedly, in the afternoon, Hyorin kept calling In-hai but she didn't answer the phone. Hyorin felt like she was betrayed by her best friend and was agitated and fainted. When she woke up, Hyorin saw her mother sitting next to her. She lied to Hyorin that In-hai got on the plane and left. Hyorin understands that the mother's words are not trustworthy. She then told her mother that she was the one who told In-hai to leave. Meanwhile, In-ju rushes back to Korea when she learns that her younger sister In-kyung is missing. She found the last location In-kyung appeared in a mental hospital. At this time, people from the mental hospital called. In-ju now discovered that In-kyung had used her name to complete the admission procedure for treatment. The reason is that In-kyung was looking for someone before. She followed the ventilation pipe to break into that person's house. She wasn't careful and made a sound. It turned out she was going to Representative 1's house. He is also Jae-sang's cousin. A few days ago, In-kyung was avoiding discouragement when she received a text message from Delegate 1. He said he had evidence of Jae-sang's crime and wanted to give it to her. In-kyung successfully entered the mental hospital to find Representative 1. He told In-kyung clearly about all the crimes of that secret organization. It was because he wanted to expose them that they harmed him and was locked up in a mental hospital for more than 10 years. But Representative 1 told her that no one would believe the words of someone who had been to a mental hospital. However, In-kyung said he could rest assured to do as she said. She will try to find all the witnesses. While the two were discussing, Jae-sang's subordinates also went to the mental hospital. They prepared to eliminate In-kyung. In order to save their sister from being taken away, In-ju and Jong-ho activate the alarm. Soo-in also discovered In-ju through the camera. In-ju and Jong-ho are chased to the rooftop. Jong-ho and In-ju successfully cut off the bodyguards and isolated Soo-in. In-ju used his weapon to attack her. "Do you want to kill me? What did you say? Go to die." In-ju was extremely satisfied when he successfully reported the crime. However, the subordinates broke through the door and arrested In-ju and Jong-ho. Luckily, In-kyung and one escaped at this time. When In-kyung came home, she was extremely worried about her sister. She wanted to go save In-ju but was stopped by Do-il's father. He said he had already sent someone there. Meanwhile, a stranger entered the mental hospital. This person threw a smoke bomb and took the key from the guard. At this time, In-ju and Jong-ho were blinded and locked in the warehouse. They heard a noise outside. A man holding a hammer walked towards them. They put In-ju and Jong-ho on smoke masks. It turns out that this person is Do-il. He personally came here to save In-ju. After In-ju was saved, she fought with In-kyung. Together they planned to assassinate Jae-sang during his speech 3 days later. In-kyung wanted to release the information first to make him face legal punishment. As a result, she and Do-il's father had a conflict. At this moment, In-ju immediately remembered her sister In-hai, who had not been in contact with her for a long time. However, Delegate 1 seemed to be pondering something. Meanwhile, Jae-sang is criticizing Soo-in for not killing In-kyung. At this time he received a phone call. The person on the other end of the line is Representative 1. Representative 1 says he doesn't want to be on In-ju's side. He wanted Jae-sang to give him some money so he could run away. Jae-sang agrees with him but plans to trap Delegate 1. Unexpectedly, a person then pointed a gun at Jae-sang's head from behind. "Jae-sang, how are you? Long time no see." Representative 1 prepares to open fire. Do-il betrays In-ju and takes away 70 billion won. Before that time, they discovered that a car was missing from the camp. One of Do-il's father's weapons was also missing. In-kyung guesses that Representative 1 went alone to find Jae-sang to kill him. Do-il's father doesn't believe it. Because he understands Representative 1 very well. Representative 1 is an extremely gentle person and will never hold a gun. But meanwhile, Representative 1 was pointing a gun at Jae-sang's head. He took his phone and called Soo-in. He asked them to prepare money for him to run away. But suddenly Jae-sang suddenly attacked Representative 1. He successfully counterattacked and stole the gun. Representative 1 regretted not pulling the trigger just now. Surprisingly, the gun had no bullets. Jae-sang saw that the gun had no bullets and was repeatedly provoked by Representative 1. After killing him, he went home and leaned on his wife. Sang-a not only doesn't blame him and also reveals that everything is going according to plan. She then gave Jae-sang 2 sedatives and told him to go to sleep. That's right, Jae-sang is controlled by his wife. At night Do-il and In-ju broke into their house. In-ju goes to Hyorin's room to ask her sister's whereabouts. Hyorin also guessed that In-hai was locked up somewhere by her mother. At this exact moment, Hyorin heard a commotion outside. They looked out the window and saw Sang-a going somewhere. Sure enough, she went to the room where In-hai was locked. In-hai feels like she might die. She hopes Sang-a lets her die gently. She also wanted Sang-a not to reveal to her sisters that she was dead and just went abroad to study. If Hyorin knew I died, she would definitely be very sad. It can be seen that In-hai cares for Hyorin even more than Sang-a. Sang-a gives In-hai a photo. She told In-hai to draw it and then she left the room. In-hai took the pen and drew that picture again. Suddenly she heard a noise from outside. What was more surprising was that In-ju opened the door and entered. After In-ju took pictures of all the evidence here, they fled together. The next day, Sang-a couldn't find his daughter. Then, the maid told her that Inju was waiting for her in the room. Sang-ah felt that Inju was bold for still daring to come here. Inju said she came here to deliver a letter for Hyorin. It turns out that at a young age, Hyorin and In-hai ran away together and flew to London. Two best friends decided to leave Korea to pursue their passion. Sang-ah also felt ridiculous after reading the letter. She didn't make things difficult for Inju and told Inju to be careful of Do-il, because Do-il is a fraud. Pay special attention to the amount of 70 billion won. Meanwhile, Jae-sang is investigating how Delegate 1 escaped from the mental hospital. He discovered Do-il appeared there. However, Jae-sang is not worried because he still has something in his hand that can control Do-il. That is Do-il's mother who is in prison. Do-il and Soo-in also appear in this. Jae-sang said that if Do-il wants to survive with his mother, he must reveal his father's whereabouts. That's right, do you want to be with Inju? Meanwhile, Do-il has received intelligence. All of their assassination sites were destroyed by Jae-sang's subordinates. Meanwhile, Do-il is tricking Inju into signing the papers. Because it was all in English, Inju didn't understand anything. Jong-ho and In-kyung also read it and felt there was no problem. Inju did not hesitate and immediately signed. After the topic or inner, Do-il went to meet someone and discovered an extremely horrifying scene. Meanwhile, Do-il and his mother boarded a plane to fly abroad. He betrayed everyone with the money. It seemed like Do-il's mother and he were getting on a plane to leave. But she appeared next to In-kyung on television. In-kyung's purpose here is to expose the real culprit of the 1998 case. In-kyung uses a series of convincing evidence. She wants to prove that Do-il's mother is not the murderer but Jae-sang's father. It seemed that Do-il's father had burned to death in the explosion, but he was okay. It seemed that Do-il had betrayed and disappeared, but he came back. Inju was extremely surprised. She got in the car and asked Do-il why he hid his actions from her. Do-il doesn't want to say that Inju knowing will easily cause the plan to fail. Meanwhile, In-kyung has just finished broadcasting. Jae-sang immediately thought of changing books. Do-il was surrounded by a group of people and arrested for carrying a gun. After that, Jae-sang used his connections to calm down the 1998 case. In the evening, Jae-sang was campaigning in front of the people. He was extremely unprepared and gave his lecture in front of thousands of people. He also said that the recent events that happened to him were because of forces that did not want him to be elected. But next, Do-il made everyone silent. On the big screen was playing a video of Jae-sang killing one the day before. This is the face of a murderer. The screen was turned off. Jae-sang was not willing and continued to direct public opinion. However, Do-il continued to hack into the system and let the video continue to play. People were extremely frightened and they saw with their own eyes the scene of Jae-sang using stones to kill people. It turns out, a few days ago, In-kyung suddenly received an email. I'm one. This is the only way. Let's expose Jae-sang's face. Let's let everyone know what kind of person he is. In-kyung receives a video that one himself used his life to record. He wanted everyone to see Jae-sang's scary face. Fireworks appeared in the sky as if to congratulate Inju and everyone for making it. Jae-sang continued to open a speech. They navigate by speaking the video. It is fake and created using digital software. As expected, this is extremely effective. Up to half of the people at the scene yesterday chose to trust Jae-sang. As a result, Jae-sang won the election and became the sole market. In-kyung continues to appear on air. Sir, the MC of the program received urgent information. They immediately released a video of Jae-sang jumping off a building and committing suicide. This news made Inju, In-kyung, and everyone extremely surprised. Meanwhile, at the morgue, Sang-ah is coming to see Jae-sang's face one last time. In his hand he also held an orchid. Sang-ah then calls Inju. She says she will take revenge. Hearing her words, she opened the computer and checked her bank account. She was a little uneasy and called Do-il. However, his phone said it was busy. She then checked her bank account again and the money was completely gone. At this moment, an uninvited guest suddenly appeared at the door. Just entering the Seoul market, Jae-sang's wife peeled a plate of apples for him. On the apple plate there is a deadly orchid. When he saw this flower, Jae-sang knew it was time for him to die. He went to the rooftop to prepare to commit suicide. I know why you married me. Because I can die for you at any time without hesitation. But his wife is still not satisfied. The thing is he can't do anything right. Put me and my dad in danger. After saying his final goodbyes to his wife, he took the flower with him and left. After Jae-sang logged himself out, Soo-in went to find Sang-ah. She asked Sang-ah for permission to eliminate the Inju sisters. She believed that her master jumped from the building because he was forced by the Inju sisters. Sang-ah says there's no need to kill the two tiny ants that peek out for now, because if she killed those two people now, she would obviously be the biggest suspect. Woo Sang-ah decided to slowly hang out with the Inju sisters. Meanwhile, Inju was extremely surprised when all the money in her account disappeared. There was a knock on the door outside. In-kyung told her not to open the door and wait for her to return. It could very well be a fake police officer. But that guy entered the house and took Inju away. Later, In-kyung went to the police station to meet her sister. Inju cried and regretted because she thought she should not trust Do-il. She believes that the 70 billion won that suddenly disappeared was definitely made by Du Il. But In Kyung revealed to In-ju that Du Il had been in a car accident. The two cousins thought that this was definitely Sang-a's doing. On the day of Jae-sang's burial, Sang-a's plan officially began. The first is providing evidence that Hwa-young stole 2 billion won from the company, then blamed In-ju that she was likely the one who murdered Hwa-young. Next, he intentionally falsely accused In-ju and Hwa-young of planning to make Jae-sang commit suicide. She didn't have any money but was still in jail. She cried to her defense attorney. But the lawyer did not think In-ju was unjust, because under Sang-a's scheme, this case is attracting a lot of attention from the people. For such cases that upset public opinion, the lawyer only advised In-ju one sentence. Just plead guilty, then your sentence will be reduced. The court presented unfavorable evidence for In-ju, but when she thought everything was over, In-ju remembered and told the lawyer that Du Il could testify for her. But unexpectedly, the lawyer revealed to her that, in the next trial, Du Il will be a witness for Sang-a's side. While she was being escorted into the car to be taken to prison, a reporter tried to put a piece of paper in In-ju's hand but failed. In Kyung continues to meet In-ju. The two sisters couldn't continue to be passive like that anymore. Therefore, they intend to release evidence that Sang-a murdered Hwa-young to put her in prison. When In-ju went to save In-hai, she discovered Sang-a's secret room. Because of that, she discovered evidence that Sang-a murdered Hwa-young. In Kyung the next day went to Hwa-young's father. She wants him to give her Hwa-young's fur coat. But unfortunately, he sold it. Luckily, Jong-ho found that shirt for sale on a second-hand sales app. Meanwhile, Sang invited a man over. He is extremely skilled in tricks and is an extremely dangerous man. Reporter In Kyung, I'll leave it to you to handle. Hwa-young has come back to life. In-ju, Sang-a and the others couldn't believe their eyes. Before that, In Kyung went day and night to investigate clues without knowing she was in danger. A black car parked in front of her and two people kidnapped her. Meanwhile, In Kyung is in danger. That borderline principal was preparing to torture her. Not long after that, Sang-a went to see In-ju because she wanted to see In-ju's miserable appearance. In-ju asks what she came here for. Sang-a took out a lipstick and smelled it. In-ju realized it was a gift she gave to her younger sister In Kyung. Then she also saw her sister's diary. In-ju was extremely worried. She asked Sang-a what she did to her sister. She warned Sang-a that if she dares to harm In Kyung, she will risk her life to the end. Even if I die, I won't forgive you. Sang-a immediately said that she was not allowed to touch In Kyung. In-ju completely collapsed and wanted to jump into a fight with Sang-a but to no avail. The second session has arrived. In-ju sees Du Il on the court. But he sided with Sang-a. He testified for the police. She wanted me to help her go to Singapore to help her with the money. In-ju was helpless and couldn't say a word. Meanwhile, Sang-a began to smile proudly. But when In-ju's lawyer stood up to question the witness, the case changed 180 degrees. Cho Du-il said the 70 billion was indeed transferred to In-ju's company. But that's just a company to save money. In the end, the money will return to the student investment company in Panama. Whose company is the student company? It's Sang-a's. Everyone was extremely surprised. Du-il also took out a USB. Inside is evidence of over 10 years of Sang-a coconut money. This could help In-ju's sentence be reduced to about 1 year. It also causes Sang-a to be investigated. The only unfortunate thing is that Du-il will also be punished for taking advantage of public funds. Sang-a's Soo-in is curious that Du-il can completely run away with the 70 billion won. Sang-a is looking for a way to settle the other 70 billion won. She did not expect trouble to find her. Ho-line is still at the police station waiting for In Kyung. He accidentally discovered In Kyung was at the bottom of the radio to give a speech. In Kyung is preparing to reveal evidence that Hwa-young was murdered. Sang-a sees that In Kyung is still alive. She immediately called the pervert she hired but he didn't answer the phone. The evidence includes videos and artifacts that In Kyung provided to show that Sang-a was the person who killed Hwa-young. Unfortunately, the prosecution will not conclude that Sang-a is guilty based on this evidence alone. In Kyung points out the coincidences. First are the blue orchids. She also invited an important witness. This person is the pervert who just tried to kill her. Why did he betray Sang-a? It turns out he didn't hurt In Kyung. Because she convinced him and wanted him to testify for her. It was obvious to everyone that those flowers were Sang-a's husband. Sang-a is mad because she will definitely be investigated by the police. Not long after In-ju's case continued to go to trial, she hoped the judge would make a fair verdict. Right at this moment a woman walked in. This person turns out to be Hwa-young, the person who accidentally died. Was it Hwa-young after all? Why is she still alive? Everyone in the court was extremely surprised. In the last episode of this drama, Hwa-young returned under the surprise of everyone. She appeared to clarify whether In-ju stole company money or not. The main purpose is to expose Sang-a's crime to revenge for his mother. All of this from beginning to end was done by me to revenge my mother. Being high on In-ju has nothing to do with this. The judge immediately asked Hwa-young, then who was the person who died at the crime scene? Hua Young told the whole truth of the incident. The person who died was not her but someone else. 2 years ago, Hua Young was surfing a forum whose members were people who wanted to test the waters. She found a girl who looked exactly like her. That girl was no longer interested in life and also wanted to leave her family some money. Therefore, Hua Young planned to steal 70 billion won. Then she will take advantage of that girl to hide herself and live abroad. Only that day, Sang-ah went to Hua Young's house. She assumed that the girl in the house was Hua Young and murdered that girl. It seemed like everything was planned out and Sang-ah would be arrested. But this evil woman has prepared a new plan. On the day In-kyung came to pick up In-ju to be released from prison, when In-ju returned to her aunt's house, she saw Hua Young sitting there. She angrily pushes Hua Young and asks why Hua Young is taking advantage of her. I originally just wanted to live better. But I didn't expect you to investigate to this extent because of my death. Recently, Hua Young has been using In-ju's identity to live in Singapore. Until one day she read the news that In-ju was in Singapore. However, she reads the newspaper and discovers that someone is impersonating her. She immediately realized it must be Sang-ah. She knew In-ju was in danger, so she proactively went to find where In-ju was. When it was dangerous, she drove between two cars next to her. On the day In-ju was admitted to the hospital, Hua Young was admitted. It was not an illusion but reality, but In-ju thought it was a dream. She fell into the trap and went to the room that Sang-ah had set up. Hua Young saw Sang-ah pretending to be exactly like her. Back to the present, In-ju has been released. Hua Young tells In-ju to give up investigating these dangerous things, leaving the rest for her to handle. At this moment, Du-il called In-ju because there was no evidence of money laundering, so he was temporarily released. In-ju wonders why Du-il laundered so much money without leaving any evidence. Du-il invites her to go abroad with him because he found out her In-hai's lineage. In-ju and Du-il got on the plane. In-ju tells her to go to the bathroom, but Du-il waits forever and doesn't see her return. He immediately checked the bathroom and searched all over the plane but couldn't find In-ju. Meanwhile, In-kyung and Jong-ho go to school. They want to find the perverted principal to get evidence. They discovered that the principal was dead, and before they could calm down, a group of people rushed in with weapons and surrounded them. They attack Jong-ho and attempt to kidnap In-kyung. Jong-ho immediately used a stick to poke the electrical outlet. Jong-ho hurriedly chased him down. Suddenly a little girl came and gave him a handkerchief and showed him the direction. Finally, the movie has come to an end. Sang-ah is the final character of the movie. In-ju doesn't know where she disappeared to. Jong-ho was injured and drove after the kidnappers and called Du-il to report the news. Meanwhile, In-ju shows up at Jae-sang's house. She went into the mansion and went down to the basement. She finds Hua Young has been kidnapped. It turns out that before the plane took off, In-ju received a threatening text message from Sang-ah. Hua Young says In-ju shouldn't have come here to save her. Suddenly, In-ju took out a bong from her pocket. She said, today if you want to die, then die together. But that threat means nothing to a crazy person like Sang-ah. She just laughed and said no one would get out of here alive today. She soon had the water pipes replaced with acid. As long as she opens the switch, Hua Young will be the first to die. Sang-ah wanted everyone to die, so he kidnapped In-kyung here. Du-il promptly appears to save In-kyung. The butler pulled out the ad and stabbed Du-il. You made a mistake by touching In-ju, bitch. At the same time, Sang-ah activated the switch to kill everyone. Acid rain occurs in the room. In-ju throws a bomb to create chaos. Taking that opportunity, she used an iron plate to cover and save Hua Young. Sang-ah was extremely surprised. At this time, Du-il also came forward to take Hua Young out first. Sang-ah grabbed In-ju. The two struggled. Sang-ah fell into the acid pit and was counted on the board. Her husband's deadly orchids have also withered. Perhaps her death took the cruelty away. She is truly an invisible killer. Meanwhile, Du-il wants to settle abroad. He said goodbye to In-ju one last time at the airport. Although the two really love each other, they cannot be together. Meanwhile, In-kyung and Jong-ho have confirmed their relationship. The newspaper where In-kyung previously worked also invited her back, but she refused because she wanted to go to America with Jong-ho to accompany his studies abroad. In-ju goes to prison to visit Hua Young. Hua Young said she would give half the money to In-ju. However, In-ju said she would wait for Hua Young to get out of prison and then they would both start a business together. Through many storms, their love is still as close as ever. Meanwhile, In-ju returned home and received a lawsuit. When In-ju's aunt was alive, she bought In-ju an apartment. In-ju arrived at the house and burst into tears of pain because she missed her late aunt. One day at work, In-kyung received a text message from the bank. Suddenly she had 10 billion won in her account. In-ju received 30 billion won. It turned out that the money was transferred by In-hai. The whole thing was done by Du-il. On the day In-hai and her friends went abroad, Du-il approached two girls. Do you two have a bank account? Your account will not be available until your birthday arrives. In-Hai asked Duiel if he wanted to use it to commit illegal acts. Duiel just said, I want to put my sister's money in there. Everything has come to an end. Everyone has their own life. The movie ends here.